This video is about one of the most hurtful things we can do to ourselves, to living a life of self-empowerment, fulfillment, and being in a space of making our highest contribution, and that is handing over our life decisions to someone else. Hey everyone, and welcome here. This is Becoming an Expert at Self-Leadership. I'm Maika, a psychologist, and this channel is dedicated to sharing knowledge and inspirations that support you in your self-empowerment. And the fundament of self-empowerment is to live life based on your inner world and not being driven by someone else, a group, and authority. There's only one person in your life that can make decisions for you, ultimately, and that's you. If we allow ourselves to be that person for ourselves, we will experience a tremendous amount of self-worth, self-acceptance, confidence, empowerment, creativity, and intuition that will always be shut away from us otherwise if we are addicted to seeking permission, approval, reassurance, and handing over our life's decisions to someone else. We're the only ones that can decide for us, and that needs to happen based on our inner world, our intuition, on what we've learned, on our aha moments and breakthroughs. If we live life in any other way, it'll always feel like we're living someone else's life because we will be disconnected from our inner world, from our emotions, and huge chunks from our inside because we're so busy overlooking it so that we can continue living the lie of a life that isn't really true to ourselves. Before we go any deeper into this, I'd like to go way back to where this begins. Why do we hesitate to be in charge of our own lives? The most basic answer is because we never learned how to do it. When we grow up, we are often rewarded for being obedient, a good sport, and we're not challenged in an age-appropriate way to make our own decisions, to learn to listen to that inner voice and become familiar with that sense of knowing that we need to make decisions. We are guided by permission, approval, and reassurance by authority figures. And as an adult, that remains to be our main source of guidance. We don't learn to give ourselves permission, we learn to ask for permission. We learn to let others decide for us, to maintain our bonds that we depend upon, to be accepted, to maintain the harmony of the family or group or relationship. We don't get to experience, or we don't experience it enough if we have issues with this as an adult, that as we grow up, we become more and more capable of making our own decisions, and that it's a core part of what it means to be a self-determined adult. And obviously this doesn't mean that we can't ask others for their perspective or advice. Sometimes we'll be grateful that we did for years. This is about who makes the decision in the end, in the midst of the whole decision-making process. Where does it come from in the end? And if that person isn't you, then you are sabotaging yourself. It's like going into the forest and then putting on a blindfold and then calling someone to give you directions where to go. But you're the one in the forest. You're the one who could see the paths and where they lead. You're the one wearing the boots on your own feet. It goes so far that we don't even notice that we're doing this, outsourcing the authority over our own lives. We may think that all we're doing is asking for advice, but actually we're seeking permission. And often others are very ready to jump into that role, to help you out, to tell you what to do. Or they may also just honestly be sharing their perspective, but you take it as, this is what I have to do, without consulting your inner world. And in that way, we can end up feeling dominated by others, feeling shoved around, although nobody's dominating us or shoving us around. But we are projecting this pattern that we've had our whole life, that we were taught to have, into our current relationships. To step out of this pattern and dare to be the person that makes your life's decisions, it's helpful to become aware of the subtleties of including others or approaching others in your decision-making process. Because, like I said, often we include others beyond a point of what is helpful for ourselves, and we do that unintentionally. So the more we move down on this dimension, the more a decision will be guided by someone else, a group, an authority, and the more we're up here, it's guided by our own inner world. Some decisions we don't include others in or talk to them about because it's not necessary. And the first softest way of including someone or approaching someone with or about a decision in your life is to inform them. I've come to a decision that I'd like to inform you about. I'd like to let you know, and so on. Next, we may be seeking someone's support, encouragement, blessing, validation. I've decided something and I'd like to seek your encouragement and support. Next, we may be wanting someone's perspective on an issue in our life. Their feedback, advice, their opinion. I'm in the process of coming to a decision and I'd really appreciate your thoughts on this. And up until here, the person that makes the decision in the end is you. So these are all self-determined ways of including others in our decisions that are based on our inner world in the end. This is where we start handing over the control over our life to someone else. That is if a personal decision becomes a discussion with someone, and we allow them or we ask them to participate more in that decision than is helpful. Now, what I'm talking about here are personal life decisions. This is not about decisions that have to do with both of the people that are discussing, or a team or something like that. Obviously, in some or many decisions in our life, we need to come to some sort of compromise or cooperation. This isn't what this is about. To one-sidedly exclude others and, become inconsiderate. The whole video is about being too considerate, So sometimes we may allow others to influence us to an extent that we feel like they need to agree. But if we follow our inner calling and something is right to us from a wholesome picture, we ultimately don't need someone to agree in a discussion. The next step would be that someone else may ask you what you want, but then decide for you. Here it's becoming more and more obvious that you're not making decisions anymore. The next step would be that someone else sells their decision to you, so they're making some sort of effort to convince you. And last but not least, someone just plainly tells you what to do. And I just want to highlight again that this is about personal life decisions. It's not about when you're working together in a team and the team lead asks you to do something, because you have agreed to be part of that team. Your decision to be part of that team and to accept that person as your team lead, that decision came from your inner world. It's if you have any questions, just post them in the comments. I've had a lot of discussions about this with people that are close to my life in the past couple days, and I know that a lot of questions come up about this. So if you have any, just post them and we can discuss. Often people are also concerned that this will make them selfish, But this isn't about being selfish and kind. That is a completely different topic. It has nothing to do with this. We can be the kindest person because that makes sense to us and that comes from our inner world. And we can also be a selfish person that is only looking for what is good for us and seeking that by just complying all the time, avoiding conflict so that we don't have to suffer through the conflict. And that can also be a selfish decision, although it may look like we're being considerate and kind. So the practical conclusion from this is that whenever you're approaching someone with a decision that you're about to make or that you have made, to ask yourself beforehand what it is that you're seeking. And if you notice that you're seeking permission, know that that would be self-sabotage again. Clarify what would be most helpful for you from these 3 options, and then let that person know that that's what you've come for. Especially if you have been overly considerate of other people's assumed inconveniences with you being a self-determined adult. It's likely that they, even if they're not a domineering person, that they will just have gotten used to the comfort and easiness of you going along with everything, and that they'll be surprised just to see this new side of you being confident and taking charge and being decisive. But once they've gotten over the surprise or the first couple surprises, for the most part, people will authentically appreciate that you're being loyal to yourself, that you found new strength and emotional depth. And anyone who doesn't appreciate that for you, they don't get to say anything about anything in your life. Observe your inner response to these types of interactions. If you're feeling angry, resentful, or like someone steamrolled you, ask yourself if perhaps you have pushed yourself to accept someone's opinion as a decision that's been made for you. Or perhaps you approached them in a way that invited them to give their advice because you didn't explain that you're asking for support, encouragement, or that you just want to inform them. In any case, you're not obligated to blindly accept someone else's decision or opinion. And no one knows everything better than you in every little way. Self-determined people are interested in other people's perspectives because they know that they can learn from them, but they don't ask for permission to live their life based on their inner world and what makes sense to them. They know that ultimately only they can know what they want. And unless they start listening to that inner voice, they know that they'll never experience that decisiveness and knowing that they're looking for. Thanks for watching this. If this moved you in any way, I'm always happy to hear from all of you. And if this is a very persistent pattern for you, don't hesitate to seek some support from someone who wants to see you free. Sometimes that's the only way to walk this challenging path of living from your own inner world. Till next time, take care. Remember to subscribe if you're new here, otherwise you'll need the permission of the algorithm to see my videos again. And remember, you're the only one who can give yourself permission.